Good evening, everyone. Welcome again to another Tuesday night's Thoughts and Talk with Coach Wendy Hazel. Welcome. If you're here, I want to invite you to just say hi in the comments. And you can also let me know where you're watching me from. Okay, where you're watching me from. So let's see, I think that's okay. Just adjust this a little bit. Where are you watching me from? Where are you watching from? Okay, let me just make sure that this is. So come on in and invite. Want to invite someone to join? Come hang out with me tonight. Just quickly set that up. Okay. Let me just check this again. Why isn't this? Okay, so come on in and invite someone to join you. Okay, there we go. All right, there we go. Hey, Jennifer, here, Karen. Good evening. So just say hi. Thank you for saying good evening. And you can also just type where you're looking from, which city or country or state, anything like that. And so welcome again, another Tuesday night. And I'm so excited to share some stuff with you tonight. Okay, excited to share with you tonight again. Last week, I talked about narcissism. And I must say that I was blown away by the reach of that live. I think the last time I saw was like 750 persons had viewed it. And so it seems that persons are sharing and sharing and sharing. It seems that there's some value in there for persons that they were interested in sharing it with others. And I am so grateful for that, so thankful for that, because it's a word that needs to reach the right persons, to reach the right women, to save lives and change lives. So last week was narcissism, and this week I'm going to be talking about it some more. Okay, talking a bit some more. I just thought I wanted to let people know a little bit about what the Bible says about it. Because persons may be asking, you hear the word in what us Christians would call in the world, but where is it in the Bible? How come we kind of miss some things? Okay, all right, so welcome. If you're watching this on the replay, I want to invite you to type #replay in the comments, because my understanding is that when you do that, it affects the Facebook algorithm in some way. I don't understand the whole algorithm thing, but it affects it in a way that Facebook knows to share it with others. Okay, and we just want to really get the word out to share with others. And so welcome again to Tuesday night's Thoughts and Talk with Coach Wendy Hazel. I am Coach Wendy, and I'm looking there and there because my Facebook screen is over there. Okay. I'm Coach Wendy Hazel. I'm a speaker and a certified master life transformation coach. I coach women. I like to coach women of faith, but it does not mean, I want to explain that because I had questions about that. It does not mean you have to be a Christian for me to coach you. Not at all. My only thing is you believe in God. That's what women of faith mean. And so I coach women of faith who have experienced emotional abuse in some form and have the lingering effects, after effects of that emotional abuse. And they are ready to move beyond that. They feel stuck, you feel confused, you feel overwhelmed, you know that there is more for you, you know who you are, you know your gifts, your talents, your abilities, you know that the life you're living is not the life that was God designed for you, you know there's better and there's more for you, and you want to move beyond the pain and the constant conflict and the unhappy life. You want to move beyond that and to live the life that you know you deserve and the life that you want. It could be your life as well as your career, because as I coach and we go into life and life mapping, when we get past the pain and we move forward, as you go into that life mapping, is not only your life, like your family life and stuff and your personal life, but it moves into also career and work life if you have one. Okay, so that's what I do, coaching women who are ready to move into that place, into that life that they desire and they deserve, and that was designed for them by God. And we do this while honoring God in the process. We don't ever want to do anything that goes against what God is saying. Okay, goes against what God is saying. So great. Okay, so we will pause. Good night. Hi, Laverne. Belize in the room. Hey, hey. Philly in the room. Guyana. Thank you, guys. Thank you, guys. Just share this. And tonight, I want to just touch on a little bit, bring an awareness that we can find stories and answers in the Bible, to when you're dealing with persons who, in the coaching industry or in the psychology industry would refer to as narcissistic. Okay, I want to put a disclaimer. I am not a licensed mental health professional. However, I am a trained mental health first responder. So I have been trained to recognize mental health issues, and as a first responder, to identify where to direct the person for help. Either the person's at a stage where I can help them with my coaching that I have been trained to do. And my coaching is neuro transformational coaching, which means we go about getting to the core, deep on the inside, in the soul, at the root causes of issues. And we coach persons through that to overcome that. So in addition to my life coaching training, my master life coaching training, I have also had training to be a mental health first responder. And that is meant to really work in the Christian community and to recognize where people are and to recognize and identify where was the next step for them. If it is that the person needs spiritual counseling, they need pastoral care, or they need a psychologist, or they need a therapist, or referring them directly, directing that. So I've also been trained that. So as I talked about these things, narcissism, I'm talking, like I shared before, I'm talking from personal experience. I'm talking from experiences coaching women. A little bit of what I'll talk about will be stuff that I got from women, experience with women, but most of what I'm talking about is from my experience and my learning. Okay, so if I say anything, if you're a professional and you hear me say anything that's a little off, I am not a professional. I may get it off, but hopefully I won't get it totally wrong. Okay. Another thing that I wanted to share is that something loosely, and I know I'm guilty of that, of saying a person is a narcissist. Now, narcissistic, let me share this. There are narcissistic qualities and behaviors, okay? That doesn't make a person a narcissist because they're doing something narcissistic. So for example, narcissistic, you find up with narcissists, very, very selfish. Very selfish, it's all about them and itself. The whole term came from this old story of Narcissus, I think it's Greek or whatever. he was looking in the water and he saw himself and fell in love with himself, with his own image. That's where it came from. And so you find when they say somebody is narcissistic, you find a lot of selfishness. It's all about them, all about me, take care of me, entitlement, look at me, and things like that. Okay, so you find a lot of that. Not because somebody is selfish, me, makes them narcissistic, right? Because if you think of your babies and you think of kids early, you have a lot of me. Everything they see, it's mine. This is mine. So you go visit and they go to play with other kids and the other kids' toys and they want to take it and no, it's mine. And the mom have to teach, no, this is somebody else's, okay? So that is there from, kind of inborn in us from early. So not because somebody's selfish or somebody has some of the qualities I'll share tonight makes them narcissistic. Now, there's something called narcissistic personality disorder, which has to be diagnosed by a licensed professional, okay? That's a diagnosis, and we can do that. And even the professionals, you listen to them, they'll say it's difficult to do it, okay? There are a series of things that the person must be evident in the person's life, and it must be a pattern. And that's a thing too. When you're dealing with somebody who we'll say narcissistic, you find patterns. The things that they're doing is over and over and over. It's a cycle. And even though you may complain or you speak to them and you try to set boundaries and say, I don't like this, don't do this, you find they will still be doing it and disrespecting boundaries, things like that. Okay. All right. So right, I wanted to give that kind of clarity around it, but it's there. It's in these times, we're seeing it a lot. Like I said last week, persons are being exposed more and more. Every day I'm having conversations and people are seeing things and they're being exposed, right? They're exposing themselves, but also we are being enlightened and our eyes are opening up, okay? We're being enlightened and our eyes are opening up. Now, the Bible, let me just see, just want to say hi. Okay, good. Hi. If you pop in after I've been talking, welcome, and I truly appreciate you. Okay. Something else I wanted to get out of the way too, because persons have asked, like, how can I get help? I have to work with me. There are two ways to work with me. If persons feel they need help to really get through and overcome what they're going through and to move forward and to have a life that is just really more peaceful and fulfilling and filling their purpose, right? Accomplishing the purpose. There are two ways to work with me. I have a group program where group of women and we meet weekly over, I had it for 6 weeks. The next one, they're starting later this month, is going to be for 12 weeks to give women more time for transformation. Okay, so that's going to be 12 weeks where women meet and I do teachings every week. There's homework, exercises to do, to practice for change. And in there too, they're what we call pods, where women break up into smaller groups and they meet during the week, right? They choose a day and they meet and really coach and support each other. So in the group, you get a lot of support. Women meet and there's prayer support and, just to have a safe space where there's grace and there's understanding for what you're going through. And you'll find that you're not alone. Somebody else is experiencing what you're going through as well, okay? And so in that group setting, you have that group support from other women. And I'm very particular to make sure it's safe. So women in there are not those who coming to hear your story and head out. No, that you don't get in to do that. You're in there because you are humble enough to say, you know what, this is what I'm experiencing. I can't take it anymore. I need to move on. I need better. I don't know what to do. I've tried ABC. It hasn't changed or work, and I need help to get to where I want to go. Okay. And so in that group is safety and that support. That's one way. The other way is the VIP, where you work with me one-on-one and I would coach you one-on-one. And we would meet initially every week, once a week, and later on, and that is a three-month program. Initially 3 months. Ideally, I want to say 6 months. Okay. but 3, and then the person can renew and go another 3 months, depends on how it is. Because we all coming from different backgrounds, different places, okay? And so you can work with me. That's one-on-one, it's private, just you and I, confidential, safe support. You get support during the week between when we meet, like texts and messaging and stuff like that. And so you have time to work. And then later on, as we progress, then we meet every other week and the transformation happens. So those are 2 ways. Persons have asked, and if you want to know that, those are 2 ways. And I am the founder of Lifting Limiting Lids. So to get to me, you can go to liftinglimitinglids.com and schedule a call with me, right? Schedule a call with me. You'll have a calendar there, you set it up, and then we will meet, okay? And schedule a call, we get to talk. And in that call is for me to hear from you, you hear from me to see if we're a good fit. Not everybody's a good fit, right? I will see if I can help you. If I think I can't, then I'll let you know. And if there's somebody I know who is a better fit for you, I may refer, things like that, okay? Because I have a whole community of coaches who've been trained with me, who we have that access to each other, okay? So let me just share this now. Okay, so here we talk about narcissism, narcissist, and that word is not in the Bible. So persons who are Christians are looking and they think it's okay out in the world, or whatever. Okay, but the word that is used there is a form of pride. The word you will find in the Bible is a form of pride, and it's called insolent pride. So it's not just regular pride. And pride is something, we like to have, we want to have pride. You don't want to be disrespectful to yourself and things like that. You want to have a little bit of pride, but so not that, I want to say negative pride, not that negative pride, okay? But the Bible talks about insolent pride. In Proverbs 21:24, it says what? The proud and the arrogant person, mocker is his name, behaves with insolent fury. Proverbs 29:21 says, a servant pampered from youth will turn out to be insolent. Insolent. So insolent pride, the original word for insolent pride is a word called ibra. And it means wrath, rage, anger, outpouring, overflow, excess, fury, wrath, arrogance, outburst, overflowing rage or fury. And if you deal with a narcissistic person, you will know rage, anger, fury is there. Rage, anger, and fury is there. You'll recognize it. And when I talk about narcissism too, it's not just in intimate relationships or husband and wife. Some persons, I don't say us because I didn't, but some persons have had narcissistic parents. You've lived with a mother who has been narcissistic. There's been selfishness, there's been rage, there's been verbal abuse, the words have been said over you, there's been emotional abuse. And, like they're coming from a place of pain that you were not responsible for, but you bore the brunt of their fury, of their rage, and of their insolent pride. Okay? In Mark 12, Jesus said what? Beware of the scribes who like to walk around in long robes and like respectful greetings in the marketplaces and chief seats in the synagogues and places of honor at banquets, who devour widows' houses and for appearance sake offer long prayers. These will receive greater condemnation. So we saw that the Pharisees and the scribes had a lot of this pride. It's all about what people think. What they're doing doesn't come from a sincere heart, right? Doesn't come from a sincere heart. So here, these are these scribes, they're the leaders in the community, and they were walking around. Jesus said, look at them, long robes, but they like respectful greeting in the marketplace. So when they walk around and they walk in the marketplace, everybody must probably bow to them or show them this respect and all of that. And one of the things, if you're experiencing a narcissistic person, you may hear it said a lot, respect. They demand respect, and the word respect is used quite a bit. And they will complain, oh, the children are not respectful to me, the children are disrespectful to me, or you disrespected me. And when you look at what was done, it was no intention of disrespect. It by no means can be said as disrespect. Sometimes they'll even make up stories to accuse somebody of disrespecting them. Easily offended. The spirit of offense is super strong, easily offended. Somebody does something and it suddenly becomes a respect issue. Yet that person does not respect others. That person does not show respect to others. They will call people names. They will say all kinds of derogatory things about people. They will criticize them, things like that. Okay, so Jesus kind of brought it out and say, look at them. They like the respectful greetings in the marketplaces, chief seats in the synagogues, and places of honor at the banquets. And if you're dealing with a narcissistic person, and there are different types, I'm going to touch on that a bit, 2 different types I want to touch on. But the ones who are outward and overt and flamboyant, well-dressed, suits and robes or dresses and hats, and they always well-dressed. But if you dare with some of them, there's a function or whatever, and they're not given respect and put in the right seat and put forward, woo, there comes insolent pride. Insolence shows up, rises up, the wrath and the anger and the fury, and they're not pleased, they're not happy. And when they're not happy, they will make the whole atmosphere uncomfortable. You know, have you ever met anybody like that? Have you ever met anybody like that? They're not happy, others not happy. And, you know, there's some things you would have heard about homes, you know, happy wife, something. If the mother not happy, the whole house not happy. If something is wrong and mother not happy, the whole house not happy. That is not right, not okay, to be throwing your negative emotions on the children. And so when that happens, then everybody has to rush around on eggshells, tippy-toeing until you're happy again. And it goes for the father as well, right? Both men and women are narcissistic, but you find there are more men like that, and women, more women are experiencing the abuse coming from a narcissistic male, than the other way around. However, it's also said that we think that is so because men don't speak. It's embarrassing for a man to say that his wife is controlling or hitting them or abusing him, things like that. And that's why the statistics are looking that way. We don't know. God knows the truth though, right? But this exists. And so Jesus also talked about them devouring women's houses, which meaning without heart for a widow, the husband is dead, without that heart, without compassion, they just look at the greed of what it's in it for them. And they're just going to take the house, and now what the widow is out there, okay? And for parents' sake, they offer long prayers. And so Jesus was teaching, and he said, you see these kinds of people, these will receive greater condemnation because they're supposed to be an example. You're supposed to be a leader. You're supposed to be a leader in your home. You're supposed to be a leader in church, in wherever, society and community. You're to be a leader, but you're so focused on self and so focused on others that Jesus says they receive greater condemnation. Okay, so if you're going through, sometimes the question is like, I've heard that. I know I have had that thought. God, how? Why are you allowing these people to do these things to others? Why are you allowing them to abuse others? Why are you allowing them to be hurting others? Okay, sometimes you ask the questions, but like David, I think it's in Psalm 13 or something. He, no, not Psalm 13, another Psalm. He says, until he went into the house of the Lord and he saw the future of these people, that's when he found peace on the inside and not be worrying and crying and complaining about them, right? And then allowing them to mess up your own soul, okay? in Matthew 6:2, it is another mention them. This here is the Pharisees now. So when you give to the poor, do not sound the trumpet before you as the hypocrites, that is the Pharisees, do in the synagogues and in the streets, so that they may be honored by men. So here Jesus was teaching, and one of the things, rather than Jesus was there with them and he's seeing them and he knew them. There's another time when he was so upset, he called him whitewashed sepulchre. A sepulchre is a grave. He said inside is dead man's bones, but outside is painted pretty white. It's like the burial ground. The tomb is beautiful, pretty white, but inside is rotting bones. And Jesus referred to them that way. And to me, I can just sense he had such frustration when he looked at what they were doing, right? And how they were. And so rather than him over and over addressing them and their behavior and stuff like that, Jesus started to teach the people who wanted to learn. And he said, don't be like that. Look, don't be like that. And here he was saying, when you're going to give to the poor, when you're doing your giving, don't do it like them. They're hypocrites. They're only doing it for the show. They're only doing what they're doing for others to see. And if you're dealing closely with somebody who is narcissistic like that, you will see that. When they're giving, if there's no audience, there's no giving. If there's an audience for people to see and give praise and recognize, they don't want to give. They don't give. I've known of situations where you will get a birthday gift or a Christmas gift or stuff. If there's an audience to see, if there's nobody around to see, there are women who don't get gifts. No Christmas gift, no birthday gift. They don't get anything. When the birthday comes around, there's an excuse why they don't have money or they have something to do or things like that. So if you were listening to me and you were one who lived with that, and because it's so embarrassing, I even know of someone who said at Christmas, she would buy gifts and wrap it and put her name on it and tell her family that the husband bought the gift because it was so embarrassing. So embarrassing. Everybody's giving gifts, but yeah. But there are women who don't get any gifts. At Christmas, when everybody's giving gifts, they don't get, That person would find every excuse and reason why there isn't enough money to buy you a gift. And then there are women who you'll find in the same vein, there isn't enough money to buy you gifts or to give money for anything, but then you can see that person having money to buy themselves something that is an outward apparel, fancy shoes or clothes or suit or whatever, so that they will get the recognition from others, from men, recognition and honor. And that's very hurtful. If you're in it, it hurts to see that, sometimes I've known someone who there's no money, giving no money for the food for her, the children. But there's money to buy something that person is addicted to, maybe alcohol or whatever, or clothes, or, or the person would buy food and they just cook for themselves and the family doesn't have. Okay. I'm sharing this because a lot of times we don't even know. We're in a bubble and don't know what is going on. If somebody may be coming to church or coming to work with you or sitting next to you somewhere, you don't know what that woman's going through. They're suffering in silence, okay? But throughout the Bible, this has been happening. So if you're going through it, do not think you're alone. You're not alone. Many, 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 many women are going through this as well, but persons are silent. But in this season, it's time for the darkness to be exposed, and this is your year of favor. And if you will believe the word of God that says this is your year of favor and you hold on to that, watch and see the salvation of the Lord. Watch and see how God is going to help you through it. Now, something I want to say, when I talk about salvation and deliverance to women and stuff, I do not advocate or tell any woman to leave her marriage. No. That is not for me or anybody else, except if she's in physical danger. If she's in physical danger, yes, I say yes, right? But other than that, I don't advocate for that. I believe marriage is beautiful. My marriage didn't work out, but it doesn't mean that something is wrong with marriage. It doesn't mean something is wrong with all men. It doesn't mean something is wrong with all women if a marriage doesn't work out. You got me? But we must know what God is saying to us. Okay? We must know what God is saying to us. And so when you're dealing with narcissistic persons, pride is the big thing. Pride is huge, right? And it's insolent pride. A pride that also comes with rage and anger and that overflowing and excess. Sorry about that. My phone is just going crazy. And excess, okay? In Psalm 119, if you're going to go through this, and I encourage you to take notes, Psalm 119. And I'm going to stop to pause to say this here. I also have a document that has an A to Z of pride and insolent pride and different things that the Bible is saying. And each one of those, all the letters of the alphabet, and there's a scripture there for it. So I didn't want to use tonight to be reading a whole lot of scriptures on you and then you know, but I want you to know it's there. And if you need that document, you feel, I want to hear more what the Bible is saying about this insolent pride, what I'm living with and what I'm dealing with, I'm going to ask you to just, if you feel safe here in the comments, you can say A to Z, send me the A to Z, or send me a private message and ask me to send you the A to Z, and I'll send you that document. Okay, and you get to go through the scriptures and just read for yourself what the Bible is saying about that insolent pride. The Bible calls it insolent pride. We call it narcissism. Okay, lots of answers, lots of things are in there. Okay, and so Psalm 119, I have several verses. In verse 21, it says, "Thou hast rebuked the proud that are cursed, which do err from thy commandments." So God rebukes them. God rebukes them. And like you're saying, like you might have heard me say that this is a time when they're exposing themselves. God has been sending warnings. God has rebuked. God has spoken. Persons, when I've spoken to them, their behaviors or however, you know, whatever they did, and they really don't really obey God. They don't obey God unless it's gonna make them look bad or lose their mask. They don't obey God, right? But God rebukes them, right? 51, the same Psalm 119 verse 51 says what? The proud have made me the proud have had me greatly in derision, yet have I not declined from your law. And so David was saying, these people have me in a mess, have me really upset and really can get me angry. But you know what, God? I haven't declined from your law. I haven't turned away from you. And that's something that we have got to, it's not easy to do, but it's so worth it. Making sure that we stay, we protect our relationship with God. They can make us say things and think things and do things that make you lose your salvation. Okay. Yeah, but you have to, you know, your relationship with God is super important. That's what's going to keep you. That's what's going to keep your mind. Okay. Yes, I'm going to tell you, thoughts come, sometimes words come out because they push you to that place, right? Or actions. But when you realize that this is not what God told you to do, or God's not pleased, please don't hesitate. Admit it, confess it to God, repent, ask God for forgiveness. Sometimes God will have you turn back and ask that narcissist for forgiveness. Forgiveness is about what you did. You can't justify and say it's because he did this. No, we still have to answer for ourselves, okay? So like David was saying, with all these proud people, what they did, I have not turned away from your law. We want to take, you know, advice from that. Protect yourself. Because one of the things I heard somebody say the other day, I was reading something and it was saying that what the narcissist does is destructive to our souls. They're killing souls, destroy your soul. The soul is the area with your thoughts, your feelings, and stuff like that, and your will, what you would decide to do. And that gets destroyed. When the soul is destroyed, the spirit is wounded. When the soul is wounded, the spirit is wounded. And it's from that spirit that you really depending on your relationship with God. So just, you know, protect that. Protect that. It's not easy. You will make mistakes and you will slip up and you gotta, but just normalize. There's some things we need to normalize. Normalize admitting I was wrong to act the way. Normalize admitting that's not who I want to be. Normalize repenting. God, I'm sorry. Normalize asking for forgiveness, asking God for forgiveness. Normalize asking people for forgiveness. Now, when you ask the I don't know, you got to hear what your spirit is saying, okay? Because it's not easy. Sometimes you have to say, look, you know what? I'm sorry for how I spoke to you. I'm sorry for what I did. And just end it, walk away. Don't look, don't have any expectations of a good response. Don't. So when you're doing it, it's about you taking care of your own soul so you can be the person you really want to be for yourself, and if you have kids, for your kids. Okay. All right. So what else I want to share? Read through that Psalm 119. Okay. In 69, verse 69, David says, the proud have forged a lie against me, but I will keep thy precepts with my whole heart. Last week I said, I'm going to say it again. When you're dealing with narcissistic persons, lies are often. Do not be surprised by lies. When you're dealing with a narcissistic person, do not be surprised by lies. Truth, word twisted. Things that you have said, twisted. Things that you know have been said and done, denied. I never did this. You will be falsely accused. You are lying on me. You will be blamed for it. Lies, even though that person would be a Christian, that person could be a pastor, a leader, religious leader. It has nothing to do with the position they hold. Don't be surprised by lies. Because I'm saying this because I've heard it from women that I coach. I cannot believe he lied. How can he lie? He's supposed to be a Christian. You see that supposed to be word? That is our expectations of the person. And it's not right to be putting our expectations on anybody. If they do what we like, that's nice. That's nice. But we will be disappointed. Human beings will disappoint us. We work with human beings, they will disappoint us. But if you're dealing with somebody who is narcissistic, do not be surprised when they lie. Okay? They will lie. They will twist the truth, because for them, it's all about protecting that image, that persona. I spoke about that last week. If you didn't see the live last week, I invite you to go back and look at it. If you can't find it on Facebook, go to my YouTube channel, Coach Wendy Hazel is sitting there, okay? If you're traveling and you can't be watching, go to anchor.fm, my podcast, it's sitting there, and you can listen as you're driving to work to different things I talked about, okay? All right, so David had an experience where a lie was forged against him, but he said, you know what? I am not gonna mess up my relationship with God because of them, okay? So that's something you gotta really guard. The Bible talks about, scripture talks about guard your heart with all diligence. When you're dealing with narcissistic person, as Laverne is saying, expect disappointment. I mean, it's not nice that you're expecting negative from a person, but it's real, it's true. You will be disappointed, dealing with human beings, you will be disappointed. Dealing with your children, you will be disappointed. Dealing with your parents, dealing with your best friend, dealing with, it's human beings, right? So do not be surprised, but it does hit us and can throw you for a loop when the person is so close to you, like a spouse, the person is a Christian and the person is a leader in the church, or the pastor is a pastor. It's very, very disappointing, but it's also very hurtful, because you're being thrown under the bus and made to, because somebody will turn around and say, you are the liar. Don't tell me I'm lying. You are the one lying. And that's not the truth. That's not the truth. Okay, so as I teach women, stand in your truth. Know what's the truth, and you stand in that truth. That person will say what they want to say. Okay, we can't do anything about what people choose to say. They will think what they want to think. They will say what they want to say. The other thing you'll find, I'm going to put it out there, once they have crafted that lie, or forged that lie, as David says, forging like with metal or whatever. Once they have made up that lie, they do not step back from it, because it's the mask. What will people think of them now? They do not back down from it. And that's something you watch, you watch, but then you have to decide, how much of my energy is it worth? How much of my spiritual energy is it worth to put into going after that? Okay, some things are between them and God. Okay, not with us. Okay, and so now in verse 78, there's another verse I'm picking on. Like I said, go through that Psalm 119, looking at what David is talking about of who he experienced, and he's talking about the proud, right? The proud and insolent pride. Let the proud be ashamed, for they dealt perversely with me without a cause. But I will meditate in my precepts. Bingo. The proud, that insolent pride, that narcissistic person, let them be ashamed, he was saying. Because they treated me badly without a cause. And somebody listening to this can say, yes, I am being treated badly without a cause. I'm doing everything I could. I'm doing what I'm told to do. I'm doing, and that is something, sometimes the counsel you get is to just be a better you. And as much as you try to be a better you, if it's a better mother, a better spouse, a better whatever, better family member or so, as much as you're trying to do that, oh, sorry about that. As much as you're trying to do that, it's not changing. It's not changing. If your experience, you know what it is, you have tried to be what the good counsel has been, to be a better you. But being a better you does not change who somebody chooses to be. Okay, who somebody chooses to be. I'm not saying, okay, I think that came across a little wrong. Not being a better you. You want to be a better you, but you may be told, be a better wife, be a better mother, be a better, child or daughter. Doing that when you're dealing with narcissism, it's just going to drain you and draw you down. I didn't prepare to share this, but I have something else that I share of the physical effects of dealing with someone like that and the continuous emotional abuse. It affects you in your body. Headaches, hair thinning out, hair dropping out, pain in the shoulder, pain in the neck, digestive system problems, pain in your tummy and back pain, and things happen in your body, menstrual cycle gone haywire, things like that. And you may be going and thinking this is all medical, but it's coming from the stress of abuse. Stress of abuse. If you have some kind of medical thing that just seem to have no answer, the doctor's still guessing, yeah, they're giving you pills, and you might be taking pain pills just to dull the pain, but the minute you don't take the pill, it's there again. Check that. That might be the effect of the abuse that you've been experiencing for years and dealing with. Okay, migraine headaches and different things throughout the body. But a quick one, you would see your hair is thinning out, hair dropping out, hair thinning out, and the hairdresser may ask, what's happening here? And you're putting everything in, right? Yeah, that's coming from that. Okay. Okay, so you're being treated badly without a cause. But David says, just make sure you protect your own peace. Make sure you protect your relationship with God. Okay. In verse 85, he says, "Well, the proud have digged pits for me, which are not after the law," which means they did something that's just wrong. It's just criminal. It's just illegal. And so David experienced that. And you'll be experiencing some of the things that are happening in your home is illegal. I know of persons who like healthcare. I mean, I was in healthcare, and I'm being in healthcare, trained that as a responder, as a reporter, if there's abuse, So if somebody shows up and you see if it's elderly or children, or so you see signs and all that, you're mandated to report. But then in your home, abuse is going on. Abuse is going on. You might have a father who's beating a child more than just discipline. You have a You have a, sorry about that. Okay, where'd it go? Okay, you have a father who is just, the discipline is just, when that discipline come, because when the person is narcissistic and you have that anger and rage and lack of self-control over their emotions, they don't have that. When they can't take it out on you, they take it out on the children. Sometimes you see that. Or a child does something that just needs correction and a conversation, correction, and probably some, you know, kind of consequences put down as to something. But then in the rage, it comes out on the child. And that is happening over and over, especially if it's a young lady. I talked about that last week, young lady being physically beaten past a certain age. That is abuse. So now on the job, you're a mandated reporter. You know, or you may be a social worker or something, you know that's wrong, but things are happening in your home that is against the law. That's a dilemma. What do you do, right? What do you do? That's a dilemma. So I want to bring that awareness that that's something you need to be praying about and asking God what to do, how to handle this, because don't just sit by quietly and let it happen, because you will be accountable as well for that child. The well-being. We see cases of endangering the well-being of children. I've seen cases here, children, babies die because a boyfriend or a father hit the child too hard. I think we had a case here the other day where it's a toddler, and I think it was the heart that busted. The child died. What kind of physical abuse did you as a man put on that toddler that the heart busted? But what happens when that happens, both people go to jail, the mother too, because if there was evidence of abuse, then you were party to it, you allowed it, both people go to jail. Okay, both people get sentenced. So let's just be careful with stuff like that happening around us and really taking action, not just, I know how scary it is, not just to take the action where you want to protect yourself and be safe and you silence for peace sake, not just that, you want real action, you need this to stop or you need to be delivered out of it, okay? Again, in verse 122, talks about, let not the proud oppress me, verse 122. So David experienced that, where these people with this insolent pride oppressed. Last week I talked about that. The other thing you find I want to share is jealousy, heavy jealousy from narcissistic persons. And in talking about the scribes and the Pharisees as well, there's this, okay, let me talk. There's a story in Luke chapter 5 where the scribes and the Pharisees began grumbling at the disciples because Jesus was invited to this particular house to a reception. And that person was Levi, and he was not this religious person. And so they started grumbling. But what the thing about it is that when Jesus got invited to somewhere, the attention was on him. The crowds came after him. They could not handle that somebody else is getting the attention, the praise that they want. Jealousy. If you're dealing with somebody who's narcissistic, you're going to see that. They may not behave outwardly, but when you go home, you're going to hear the grumbling. You're going to hear that that person is not even all that good enough. You're going to hear, how can they make the person, treat that person better than me? I am better than that person. Okay. A story I want to also share with you is, if you look at in this book of Esther, Haman. Haman was a narcissistic person. Go and read the story of Esther and see Haman's operation. What he did was a set of jealousy, undermining, going behind, thinking that he was to be the one elevated. He was to be the one with position. When he realized that he wasn't getting it, he went home, he gathered the wife and the friends or whoever, and they had to hear, that's another thing, had to hear all of his past accomplishments, all what he did. Read the book of Esther and check out Haman. He had narcissistic ways, and you'll see some of the things there. Because one of the things that they'll talk a lot about their accomplishments and what they did and what they achieved, and oh boy, all that they did for you. And sometimes the thing they're saying that they did for you was decades ago. It was decades ago, but they'll remember and bring it up and throw it. Oh, I did this for her and I did this for him. Okay. So these things, I'm sharing this because right throughout the Bible, you'll see the same qualities they have, people had it then too. Okay. People had it then too, and others had to deal with it. Jesus had to deal with it. But Jesus, when they were carrying on about how he's eating and drinking with tax collectors and sinners, all the negative talk and the criticism they had of him and what they're saying about him, Jesus did not stop and address them. Jesus just said, you know what? He didn't address their narcissistic behaviors. He said what? It is not those who are well who need a physician, but those who are sick. I have not come to call the righteous, but sinners to repentance. I'm not here for you. Basically, that's what Jesus is saying. I'm not here for you. So that's something too. You got to get comfortable with the uncomfortable. When people criticize us, I mean, I'm on this platform saying what I'm saying. I know there are people who are not going to agree. That's human, right? I don't agree with everybody. So why must everybody agree with me? I don't like everything everybody says. So why must everybody like everything I say? Right? So these things will happen, but you have to know who you are. I was sharing that last week again. You have to know who you are. You are a daughter of God with gifts and talents, with a divine plan for your life that you have to be walking into, and you're more accountable for that than the people who will want to be jealous and criticizing and saying things. Don't use your energy there, because when your energy goes behind them and worry about what they're saying, it's sucking energy from you. Come on, you need it, right? You need it. Okay. So here, Jesus also had that jealousy. You'll find them with jealousy. And so because of the jealousy, they always want people around them to be lower than them. So you'll find negative talk and criticism about people. Anytime you hear that, you're looking to see, okay, it's because it's a reflection of how they feel about themselves. Because they're feeling lower than that person, because they're feeling lesser than that person, they're going to be saying things to pull the person down, and sometimes not even realizing. You listen to them and you hear how much they're puffing themselves up and saying how much they're better and all that they did and all they accomplished. And look at my flock. I have more, I have a bigger this or what. Watch it. Insolent pride. Pride, but the insolent part, if anything should happen, you'll see a rage and an anger that is uncontrollable. They themselves can't control it. Okay? All right. Okay. So the Pharisees were ashamed. Now, earlier I said there are two different types. So you have for the narcissist, you have the overt or the open one, the flamboyant ones, well-dressed and stuff like that, and flamboyant, everything sharp and tight, and they're stepping in, and yes, and they want that. They're the gates, they're, whatever. You have those. But then you also have the covert narcissist. So while the overt one, the root for them is pride, the covert one, the root is shame and guilt. They have a deep sense of shame because, and that goes back to childhood. In both places, it goes back to childhood. There's shame, and if you go back, it's likely, not 100%, right? Likely that they were ashamed because they didn't meet expectations of a parent. They were put in a place where the parent had expectations and they didn't meet it. Deep in the inside, they know they didn't meet it or they're not capable, and they were ashamed that they didn't meet it. Okay, they didn't meet it. I always think about that when I see common entrance results come out and CXC results come out. Yes, we want to celebrate our kids and so, but remember the ones who could not do the 27 subjects. They didn't need it anyway, in my opinion. In my opinion, they don't need it. I say, you might have heard me say it. And I posted somewhere today. What about the countries, the rest of the world, where the kids are not doing 27 subjects, yet out of those places, rising great people, great scientists, great innovators, great people, great businesses and stuff. They have no 27 subjects, right? So not that I'm knocking 27, if they can achieve it, that's great. But let's not forget the ones who are on a different path. They don't need that, okay? But then if there's a family, and that means a whole lot, because then it's a show, it's a status, or stuff like that, then that child could have a deep sense of shame and grow into adulthood with shame and become narcissistic. But it's coming from a place of shame and how they will treat. Next week, I want to talk about shame and getting a good understanding of shame and guilt. I want to talk because it plays a big part, okay? This week, I really focus on pride and the insolent pride and the rage that comes with it. And so that to let you know you're not alone. You're who you know, your case is not alone. Some of us have children. But luckily, the children may have to move out because they're adult. We can put them out, we can let them go. But when you have a spouse, you have to make that decision about a marriage and you've been in it for a long time and you're living with it, then, you know, it's not so easy. But like I said, there is a life that you desire and you deserve and you want to get to, and you can get there. But getting there alone, you know that you need help to get there. You can't get there alone, okay? So, all righty. So I'm going to look at some comments here now from you guys. I'm going to look at some comments. Hi. Everyone is accountable for themselves. Yes, don't forget that. Don't forget that. A lot of times we start off, I was there too, looking at the abuser and wanting that person to change. Our prayers is for that person. Our prayers is for that. And we're not looking at ourselves. We forget ourselves. And we all have some kind of narcissistic quality. We're human, right? We have some selfishness. We want, you know, things for ourselves and stuff like that. Yeah. Unless, you know, there are different times when people look at everybody else and forget themselves. But we look to the other person. No, you're accountable for you. Okay. So pay attention to you. Pay attention to your soul. Pay attention to your feelings. Pay attention to your emotions. Pay attention to what's happening in your physical body. Sit down and pay attention. Sit quiet and check out your body, where things showing up for you, okay? And finding ways, getting help to let it go and releasing all that stuff, because it's not good for your health. It's not good for your health, okay? Okay, somebody says they're experiencing jealousy right now. Yes, there's nothing we can do about how somebody chooses to feel about us, you know? Nothing we can do about that, okay? So, people will do what they want to do. We can pray for them, but we can't go say, don't be jealous, and that's the thing, don't be, I think is Dr. Ramani has this thing, don't go deep, right? Where you don't be explaining yourself and don't be, I forgot the thing now, okay? But we have a tendency, if something happens or false accusation, or we know people thinking wrong about us, we want to go and be explaining to prove it wrong. Don't do that. Don't do that. Because the person probably is not going to, it's not, no, don't be explaining away and justifying away. And you just speak your truth, know the truth, and you just sit in that truth and speak that truth. Okay. And I trust that will help you to find some peace, because the goal, one of the things when you're dealing with a narcissist, the inner peace, you lose that peace. You lose the peace, you know, because very often there's something, they just love conflict, love quarrels, love arguments, you know, they'll make up stuff, okay? They'll make up stuff. I wanted to, let me see if I have that. Yeah. In that A to Z, earlier I shared that with you, the A to Z of pride, right? They love attention. There's a spirit of blame, always blaming somebody else for what goes wrong. So even though they would be the ones who cause something to go wrong, they find somebody else to blame, and very often it's you. It's your fault, you know, that this goes wrong. And each one of these, there's scripture that's supported that will help you with that, right? So if you think you need this, just tell me A to Z, send me the A to Z, send me a private message saying that if you don't want to put it public, and I will send this document to you. It's free, no cost, okay? There's a lot of comparison with themselves because they want to be bigger and better, disobedience to God. And so that's another thing you might find, that as Christians, you living in the home and you see this person is not really obeying the word. This person is not really willing to talk the talk, you know, but not walking the walk, right? Having a form of godliness, but denying the power thereof, okay? There's a lot of entitlement. They feel entitled to the better, and they're entitled to stuff, and entitled to more of stuff in the home and that kind of thing, right? Love an argument. They gotta have the last say. They must have the last say in the argument. They're not backing down sometimes, okay? They can be so harsh with other people. You look at how they treat others in the supermarket or places like that, right? Very impatient. They don't like to hear wait. Oh, and the word that really triggers them is no. They don't like to hear no. When you decide, no, I will not do that. No, when you start to set boundaries, they wouldn't like it. But like I like to say, get comfortable with the uncomfortable. Get comfortable with how they choose to react to whatever you're saying. But if you know that's true, that's a boundary you want to set, and it's a fair boundary, you stand your ground, okay? There will be, and it will shift, okay? A lot of lofty, they like to get puffed up with knowledge. So in terms of scripture, you might find them reading the Bible and everything to get more knowledge and talk that they know the Bible, but they're not applying the word and bringing transformation to souls, right? Or their own soul. Okay, that's not happening. Okay, money-wise, it could be very miserly. I share that, right? You can find them being nosy. They like to know everybody's business. They like to know stories. They will have there, and they'll be happy to have people come and bring stories about others. They love to hear about others. And just be careful, because when you share stuff, then as someone says, they will take it, melt it down, and then make bullets out of it to shoot back at you later. If you've experienced that, you know what I'm talking about, okay? Presumptuous, talk a lot. They'll come and they'll take over the conversation. You'll see they do most of the talking. And what will happen when they come in and have that conversation, it turns very quickly, the conversation turns back to them. So everybody there listening, or whoever's listening, is now going to be having to sit and listen to stuff about them, what they accomplish, what they know, what they do, okay, how they are better. Because that's it. It's just the way their minds work. You know, come on, pay attention to me. Okay, unforgiving, unapologetic. Don't apologize and don't forgive hard. They don't, right? Very vengeful, could be very spiteful, very vindictive. If you're close to one, you will know, and you'll see vindictive behaviors, right? They saying them, I forgive you, is you don't hear that. You don't hear that, okay? All right. Okay, they put expectations on others, but they like to put expectations on others, what you should do and what you shouldn't do. But then if you try to pull them up or call them out on something, then you come up with the insolence, with the rage and the anger and that all right. And you find them very zealous, very much energy. If they have something or they have a position or they're doing anything, they're really zealous. But that is all so that they can get honor. All so that they can get honor and that they will be recognized, okay? Very zealous about the family, and they talk about the family and the children doing well, or the wife, but it's only because, right? So you'll find that sometimes that praise for this family is happening to others, but what's happening in the home is just a lot of emotional and verbal abuse and putting down and belittling and criticizing and humiliating and stuff like that, okay? And that's when you know, those are some of the signs, and that's when you know, okay? 2 Timothy, I think 2, Paul, again, I want to share that. You can go read that, where Paul described them, and then he told Timothy, have nothing to do with such kind. And there are other places in the Bible where more or less the counsel that we've gotten is to avoid that kind of person. Avoid the angry person. Have nothing to do with an angry person, an angry man, right? In Proverbs and so. So what questions you have? They are the one who will cause chaos and leave you in the mess to defend yourself. Absolutely. They thrive on chaos. Thrive. I've known of, and you know, you see some of these things in a younger age at home too. They will cause a confusion and then sit back and chuckle or laugh. Or even they cause a confusion, you're all flustered and you carrying on and you fretting. They will laugh, as kind of scornful chuckle at how you're behaving. And then your behavior becomes the issue. And sometimes it's just that, to see you out of character, to see your behavior, how you react. That is what they're after. So it's the manipulation. It's manipulating your emotions. And that's something that we learn, and I teach women and we learn, is manipulating your emotions just gives them a kick. They get bored easily. And so they have to have something, some drama, right? Some of them, some drama. And so manipulating your emotions is what gives them the kick. So now that's why it's important for us, for you, and us, I say us too, to get in tune with our emotions, emotional intelligence, emotional awareness, emotional strengthening, building the muscles where we manage our emotions. We learn how to manage our emotions, learning how to, as I said, like pay attention to our body and our emotions, being able to label it, we can sense it, we know what it is, we feel it rising up, and then we manage it and don't give that satisfaction. Now, having said that, there's some who will keep pushing when they not get, because that's what they want. They want to see you break and lose it and break down crying and things like that. And then they're satisfied with no sensitivity or care for your emotions, the pain that you cause. And if you want to say, that hurts or whatever, what hurt, what's that? And, just dismiss it and belittle your emotions and your feelings. Okay. So that's what I wanted to share tonight. If you guys have any questions, let me just move this and bring it up. Should I do that? No. I always do that. If you have any questions, that you want to ask me, but again, I share, this is a public page, so please don't. It's not like there's no safety here. I can't provide that safe space. But if you have questions, feel free to message me. Message me any questions. Sometimes, the question is one that is more than one person asking it. I will address it in a live, because chances are many others, okay? But remember, this is a season. This is the year of God's favor for you. This is a season where God is delivering his daughters and his children, right? This is a season where God is allowing, I don't know allowing, but it's happening. But we see where narcissistic persons are exposing themselves. So you don't have to do anything, because remember that when we sorry about that, when we oh, my throat, I just need it. Yeah, when we try to go after them, then we are accountable for our actions. What's your purpose? When you try to go after them, when you try to do things, what's your purpose? What's your motive? God judges us by our motives. We're responsible for us. Let God take care of them. Let God decide how he's going to handle it. And like I said, I'm seeing seasons where they're doing things, and because of their own actions, it exposed, and people who once thought, people who were deceived, thought this was a nice, beautiful, white structure, discover it's a whitewashed sepulcher. And God busted it open. And your hands are clean, right? Your hands are clean. Let it not be you. Let it not be. It's not easy. It's not easy. It's like the children of Israel coming out of Egypt. It's not easy, but God will bring you out safely. God will bring you out safely. Okay? If you have to come out. If you have to be in, God, there's strategies and different things I teach and stuff of how you can change, how you can adjust, how you can build your mental muscle, how you can work on your mind, your thoughts. Our thoughts are huge. Our thoughts, what goes through our mind, that just controls so much, right? How do you manage that and get healthy in that area? The emotional health and wellness. How do we get healthy in our emotional area? Because a lot of times, we focus on the spiritual and we focus on the physical. We're trying to do this, or we may be drinking that or whatever. But that emotional doesn't get the attention it really deserves, right? For the value it has. Value it has. In that soul, we have the spirit, that spiritual area, we be connected with God. That there is what the devil is after to destroy, right? He comes to steal, kill, and destroy. And you find some, you deal with some of these persons, it does steal you of a lot, rob you of a lot of things, right? Kill some things, destroy some things. And that's the area that we are responsible for and we need to work on. This is awakening time. Now is a season. This is the year of your favor, okay? And let's just challenge God. Now, if if you're not yet in my private Facebook group, I want to encourage you, if you're experiencing any of this and you want to really learn more and what, you know, how to handle this and to get understanding, because there's so much more that, you know, we need to learn, right? Join the group. It's called Empowering My Life. That's what the group called? Yeah. Empowering Your Life. Empowering Your Life. I'm going to post a link in the Facebook as well. Join the group. It's a private group. I am careful with what I say. I monitor who's in that group as well. But there's some safety in that group. I can't guarantee 100% safety. But I think it was this morning, the Holy Spirit dropped it in my spirit that I need another group that is like really safe. People who are in situations and you need to be safer than the Empowering Your Life group. Okay? Empowering Your Life group. So God bless you. This is year of your favor. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Yeah. Yeah, we declare it and we decreeing that women are receiving favor this year, receiving peace of mind this year, receiving your joy this year. Awesome. Okay. God bless you, and share this video so that another woman can hear some message of hope, something of hope, or she can just connect. Even if, you know, it can connect with us, connect with the group and get into the community, right? In the Empowering Your Life community. In there, we do like workshops and teachings in that community. I'm not going to do it out here in the public. Okay, because people need to be safe. I know, if you know what I'm dealing with, they're looking and they're checking, and you know, you're dealing with the narc, they'll be searching your name up online and finding everywhere you are to see where you are, and then the false accusations and things that you have to deal with. It's just so destructive, destroying souls. We need to stop the destruction of souls, of not only of ourselves, but our children as well. Because if you look good, you'll see the things, you know, you see it repeated in generations. So the question I had that somebody gave to me is like, how does it start and what can we do about it? It starts in childhood and it comes in different ways. For example, the child who got a lot of attention and a lot of praise and learned that that's how I'm going to be accepted, that's what makes me okay, will continue to do that, perform and do things so people will praise them. The child who didn't get a lot of praise will do things to get attention so that I can be noticed and accepted, right? So you see, it goes different ways. It's not a simple answer. It goes differently, but it starts there in childhood. But if you can learn those signs of, you know, the traits and stuff of narcissism, you will see it in your kid. Then you use it as soon as you see it as teachable moments to teach them that's not the way. That's not the way. I'm going to give an example of my kids. I'm very vulnerable and I share. And so something the brother did to the sister and she didn't like it. I think how he looked at her, there was something, I'm never like here or something, right? But anyway, how he looked at her, she just burst. We were in the car and she said, I don't like the way you look at me. That doesn't make me feel good. I feel whatever, she said, right? And he said, you don't have to feel that way. What's wrong with my look? And immediately I said, listen, no, you may not have intended for her to feel that way. But when your actions or your look made her feel badly about herself, or she used a word, how she felt, she did describe her feeling. When your actions made her feel that way, and she's saying, this is what your look made me feel, apologize. Because I think at first I said, you need to apologize. So apologize to what? I said, no, you may not have intended that. But if whatever you said or did hurt somebody's feelings and the person is saying, and you can see them, even they ain't saying anything, maybe tears come to their eyes or their whole countenance drop, you know, emotionally they've been affected negatively, apologize. Apologize. You're saying, I'm sorry for how my look made you feel. I'm sorry for how my words made you feel. It wasn't my intention to hurt you. apologize, right? So things like that. But when we don't know, it's because I'm sensitive to it. I picked that up because what was happening, he, without even knowing, was dumbing down her emotions, like kind of saying, don't feel that way. You can't tell anybody how to feel. A human being will react with their feelings and emotions, right? Some people are over the top, yes. But in us, like somebody said, each one accountable for ourselves, and taking account for ourselves, we notice that based on what I said or did, hurt somebody's feelings. And especially if the person, listen, I don't like that. That made me feel blah. Apologize, right? So you pick up on these things amongst the kids when they're around you and bring the correction, not with a yelling or a shutting down, because that brings more abuse into the picture, right? More abuse, because there's some parents who are very good Christian leaders, everything, but the way of dealing with situations, they yell and shout and lose control, right? Lose our control over. No, looking for that moment as a teaching moment to bring it up and bring it to his attention or her attention, so they know the next time that teaching is there. This person said, I made them feel that way. It wasn't my intention, but I'm sorry that what I did caused you to feel that way. Okay. So that's how it starts in childhood. And I could talk more about it inside the community. It starts with us and how we parent and how we were parented ourselves. And then for us now to break it, we have to start recognizing it, acknowledging it, and teaching. Okay. And teaching. All right. Okay. All right. So good night. It's 8:50. I think this was great. Thank you guys for being here. Truly appreciate it. Truly appreciate it. And please consider joining the community where you get to, see more, learn more. I drop teachings all the time. You can contact me directly if you want to be in the group later this month, because you said I'm ready for change. I need to learn what to do. Give me some steps to help me. Or if you want to work with me one-on-one as a VIP, please. It's liftinglimitinglids.com. Liftinglimitinglids.com. That's the website where you're going to go, and it can have a link for you to just schedule some time with me. Okay. And so God bless you all. God bless you all. And thank you for hanging out with me. Thank you. Great lessons to learn. Awesome. Thank you. Blessings to you, Sister Laverne. Okay. Good night, guys.